I know that there are agencies that people are directed to, like MUFON and the National UFO Reporting Center. Um,
Mm.
but what do we know? What is the history of these sightings in Oregon?
Oh, the history of the sightings in Oregon. Well, I mean, there's a long history of sightings all over the place, and particularly on uh, they seem to go in clusters. And I guess you're especially interested in Halloween clusters, right? So that
Yes.
people tend to either see them on Halloween or think they see them on Halloween or remember that they've seen them on Halloween. Halloween is one of the sort of um, factors that seems to produce sightings. You also get other factors like sightings seem to go in clusters. If somebody sees one, then a bunch of other people see one. Either that's because there was one or because people have sort of got the idea in their head and they interpret strange things in the sky as, oh, we know the guy last week saw a UFO, we must be seeing one too. So there's certain kinds of situations that produce a lot of sightings. I'm a professor of folklore at the University of Oregon and the former director of the Folklore and Public Culture program.
In that program, do you ever discuss sightings?
Oh, we definitely. Folklore, UFOs are a huge part of folklore, especially contemporary folklore stories about UFOs and what people do in response to UFOs. We can see certain patterns in UFO stories. Um, they tend to follow a kind of traditional pattern. Now, I mean, there's several ways to explain that. One is that aliens do a certain kind of thing when they come to Earth. Another one is that humans interpret things in kinds of patterns so that if you want to make up a UFO story, for instance, certain kinds of things. It might be a flying saucer shaped thing. That they come and they usually abduct people. People could make up a UFO story pretty convincingly because we know how they're supposed to go. Usually they don't like uh, UFOs are not fairies, for instance, even though they have kind of a same cultural role as fairies. But if you said, oh, aliens appeared and they were tiny and they had little wings and they sang, people would say, that doesn't sound right. We have an idea of what aliens are going to be like, and partly from other stories, partly from seeing movies, especially sort of 50s B movies. So aliens are always humanoid, for instance, because you can't have human actors playing things that are not humanoid. Since CGI came in, it became a little looser, but there are patterns that you can see, and folklore studies that kind of thing.
Have you ever met someone or have you seen a UFO?
I have not seen a UFO. I have met some people who have UFO stories, and they're very earnest about it. I'm sure some people are making it up, but I'm also sure that some people, are very serious about having seen UFOs. So, it's hard to know exactly what's going on. Even if you see one yourself, it's hard to know exactly what's going on, right? All we can do is look at the cultural information we have and say, given this, how do I interpret this? But there's a kind of cultural pattern that we have that beings from another world or dimension or something come into our world and interact with us. And over time, there's been three variations of this. One is that people come from the afterlife, right, and interact with us, and that's ghosts, and especially connected to Halloween. Halloween began as a sort of combination of All Saints Day and All Souls Day. That's what Halloween means. Hallow means saint, right? So All Saints Day, where it was thought the worlds of the dead and of the living could connect. And so the dead could come back and you could reassure them and you could have contact with them. And people felt it was very important to have a day when they could maybe help their loved ones in the afterlife. And so that's one way in which people were thought to come through from another dimension. Also in stories throughout, history, people have come through from a kind of magical other world, a fairy world. And so sometimes the fairies come through, especially on certain days, especially like Halloween and things like that. They come through and they interact with us. And in both cases, those beings are in a kind of supernatural state, like they know more than we do, and they're kind of scary. And now we have a third kind of story, which is that aliens come, and they come from outer space, which is unreachable by us, and therefore kind of like the fairy world and the afterlife. And they come in and they know more than us, and they have more power than we do, and they're kind of scary, but we're also curious, you know. So that kind of story started with the idea of space exploration. That's when we began to think, wow, maybe it's possible that they could come and you know, come to us. And then it fits right into our cultural categories of what happens when people come from another place or another dimension and interact with us. You know, we can't fully tell what they're up to, and they're scary, but we're really intrigued by the idea.
Are they real?
um, I don't think you can prove or disprove that at this point. You will get different opinions. I'm not sure myself that there's any story of UFOs that can't be explained by uh, normal things that happen rather than aliens coming. But also, you know, it's not impossible that aliens will at some point discover Earth. Are we living in that time? I don't know. But at some point, you know, at some point it will definitely be possible. The stories I've seen have so many things in common that are kind of the answers to human needs, that I'm a little worried that we're using our history of this kind of story to generate what's going on. But also, I mean, the thing is, it's fun, right? We don't want to disbelieve it. It's like ghost stories. And about 40% of the US population believes in ghosts. And I don't want to tell people not to believe in ghosts, because ghosts are so much fun, you know, and and also aliens are so much fun. They don't seem to, you know, if they're out there, they don't seem to be ruining Earth or anything. I mean, we can do that ourselves. We don't need aliens to do that, you know. So the stories are really fun. They're really intriguing. You want to believe it. You want to think, wow, that could be possible. That would be awesome, you know, just like ghosts or fairies or whatever. So I think, you know, for the average person who's not making decisions about space exploration, we don't want to tamp it down too much, because it's so intriguing. It's just full of imagination and wonder, and uh, it's a great thing to have that kind of story. People have noticed also that UFOs have a lot of characteristics that we find kind of allied with angels and with the Bible. And again, I mean, I'm not, I don't think that means that aliens are angels. I'm sure there's somebody who believes that, but I think that's a little way out there. But I think over time, we have wanted there to be people come down from on high who have more knowledge and can help us.
Mhm.
You know, and so we see it over and over again. And Halloween is a great time to think about that, you know, just about who we want to come into our lives that's different and special. So this is a great topic for this state.
Do your students seem to enjoy these stories and topics?
Oh, they're very fond of UFOs, yes. And I think everybody knows somebody or knows somebody who knows somebody who has thought they saw a UFO. So it's not as if it's a esoteric thing to think about, you know, and everyone's certainly seen a movie in which aliens arrive. So it's on our minds, I think, as a culture.